teacher Will. Um, in this episode, we are going to be discussing the question of whether online teaching has any value. And the title of this video is, Does Online Teaching Have Any Value? And and Will, I'm wondering, just before we begin, have you ever heard of something called Betteridge's Law of Headlines? Have you ever heard about that?
No, brother, you have to educate me on that one. I have
Okay,
not.
so
I don't know what
basically
that
a lot
means.
of newspapers, they kind of use like clickbait, right? They say, will the Prime Minister invade Germany? Will the stock market disappear? And this rule says that the answer to any question like this is always no. The answer is always no, right? So in theory, the title of this video, does online teaching have any value? The answer should automatically be no, right? According to this law. But of course,
Okay.
that's not true. We both recognize that online teaching has enormous value, right? But
Definitely.
before we dive in, I just wondered if you could tell me about like your experiences with teaching online.
So, hey, great question. And brother, legend, teacher Christian, Kangaroo, great to see you. Good topic. It's interesting because I think, probably it was interesting, like when people say, like, you bring up this topic, I wonder if they're thinking like teacher Will or teacher Christian would say, no, it doesn't have any value. Of course it has value. What's been my experience toward it? Well, basically, I've been teaching since 2011, and I've had the opportunity to teach face to face and also online. And I think both has whether it's online or face to face, it has its particular merit. But particularly with respect to online, what I think is important to understand and recognize is this, from my perspective, my experience has been rather favorable toward it.
Mm.
Regardless if I teach on online or regardless if I teach face to face, my methodology, my process, hopefully my interaction does not change with respect to learners. With the advent of COVID,
Mm.
and hopefully COVID will be eradicated. And I know that you, along with other countries, are in lockdown. So I pray for that COVID is gone and
Yeah.
we have vaccinations in 2020. That is my hope and prayer. For a lot of individuals that think that online teaching is going away, for both teachers and for students, I vehemently disagree. Once the dragon is out, so it's here. It's not going anywhere. And so learners and teachers have an opportunity to ask themselves the questions: what adjustments need to be made? What perceptions need to be eradicated? And more importantly, where do we move from here? So, for example, I'm an American. I live in Saudi Arabia. My full time job is to teach English to businesses or to the business company that I work for. Now, because of COVID, 90% of my classes are online. And then I also tutor for the ATW family, whether it's online or face to face. So, no, I do not think that online is going away. I do think that there is value in online teaching. And what I would say is value, if you define value as benefit or something that's going to benefit or, a value added, then it certainly, to me, it's not the question of if there is online teaching that's valuable. But what I do think is important is the aspect is what value are you getting either for your intellectual consumption, or in the cases if you're looking for private tutoring or you're paying for courses, what value are you getting for your money? So yeah, online it's important, but I think that, at least for me, I think we need to look at particular characteristics
Yeah.
to, like, if you're looking for value.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think obviously there's been a generation of teachers who actually started their careers teaching online, like on websites like if we're talking about second language, they've been teaching on websites like italki or Lingoda, giving classes. And they are specialists in online teaching. They
Right.
have they control the technology really well. They understand how the format works, right? Um, but then I think what we've seen recently is a lot of teachers, probably like more like you and me, who have spent their entire lives in the classroom, and then suddenly they have to
Yes.
move online, and that transition is really difficult for them. And I
Yes.
mean, I've received a lot of messages from teachers saying, like, help me, like I don't know what to do. I feel like, it's exhausting to teach online. It takes me twice as long to plan my classes. I feel like my classes aren't very good. Um, and,
Yes.
and I mean, how did you find that transition moving from physical to online?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, 80% of my classes were face to face and 20% were online. And I do think, before we even get started, I want to give a big public service announcement and I want to give a big applause and shout out. I want to give a big applause and shout out to every teacher out there from all over the world that happens to be listening, regardless of the number of the subscribers, that, congratulations. You know what? For what it's worth, you're doing a good job. And let me go directly to your question, Christian. I think, there was an adjustment. What do I mean by that? I had to figure out what particular application I was going to use. Number one, I had to digitalize some of my information. I had to figure out, though my methodology was the same, I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to engage students transitioning from face to face to online? So for me, it was a challenge, but yet it was an opportunity. Why? Because it was an opportunity for me to learn a new skill set, become familiar with technology, learn professional development, understand how my lesson plan is going to be impacted as it relates to the particular application that I'm going to use. Familiarize myself. I use Zoom primarily if I'm doing tutoring, whether individual or group sessions. Understanding, okay, the whiteboard, understanding, okay, group chat. So that is an adjustment. So I just want to give a big shout out to any teacher out there that has made that adjustment because sometimes it can be difficult. And final statement I would say is that I have to admit to myself, change is the one, constant of the universe, but yet I don't want to change. So it was challenging in the beginning, but now I love it. And again, I think what's important for me is that oftentimes some teachers out there might have difficulty in terms of, we all have preference. Do I miss? I'll be honest. Do I miss face to face? Yes, I do, but not at the point of my life. And we live in Corona world. So as a result of that, it's kind of like, do I miss online? I'm sorry, do I miss face to face? Yes, because I'm normally jumping on tables or I'm normally sitting on the floor. So, with that being said, I hope my students are here to do that. But now it's kind of like, how can I make the class still engaging and interactive in an online environment?
Yeah. Well, this I think is exactly the thing. I mean, personally, I tried to teach online a few times over the past kind of 10 years, and I hated it. It just wasn't for me. Like, I was really annoyed by the technical problems that I had with the delays. I was annoyed by the fact I couldn't like touch, like write on things and cross things out.
Yes, yes,
It just
yes.
but I had the choice to say, well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just continue teaching in my classroom, right? But as you said, a lot of teachers now in 2020, they haven't had that choice, right? You know,
Right.
you must teach online, and as you say, I think any teacher who has adapted to that, um, a massive respect to them because it's not been easy, and I think for any teacher who has felt like exhausted, they felt like their lessons are terrible, they felt like their students are not listening to them, they felt like bad teachers, I just want to say to them that I think that's normal, and that it's fine, and that it's
Definitely.
it's difficult for everybody, and nobody's judging you right now.
No, definitely. And I think to add a final point to add on to that, Christian, it's kind of like, you know what? We're all works in progress. I'm a work in progress. Like, I'll be honest, when I first got on Zoom, I was like, how do I do this? I'll be honest, I was like, okay, I knew group chat capability, but I was like, okay, how do I get this? I have like 8 students, I want to break it up. So again, it's I think the applicability as it relates to people learning English as a teacher, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? Oftentimes I've told my teachers, who cares if you make a mistake? Face your fears. So it was an opportunity for me. And um, certainly, I don't have a crystal ball. 2020 hopefully will be corona free, but I do think that it's not going away. The genie has been left out of the bottle. Certainly, and for some teachers, what do they love about it? They love the convenience. They love that they're saving on money. Whether it's for gas or actually going to a physical location, whether it's a language school or university, or in my case, particular work. What I would say is this: definitely make sure you have a proper internet connection, because without the internet, you're done. So again, it's kind of like, it's the glass half empty or the glass half full, and change is constant, and it's been good, and so I'm learning things about myself, and it's really challenged me in certain ways to be a better teacher.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a really interesting comment here from ELT Experiences who says um, there needs to be a fundamental shift and to not compare remote teaching with face-to-face teaching. And I think that's the key. I think teachers who make the transition and they expect it to be the same, they're the ones that are going to feel terrible, right? And you have to understand that
100%.
it's not the same, right? You can't compare, um, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's 100%. And setting objectives, really. And again, I think one of the biggest change is, again, okay, I'm not in the classroom. So to your point, Christian, you and I are similar. Oh man, you put me with a marker and a blackboard. I used to love that. Physically, like holding a marker. So now it's kind of like, okay, I don't have that. So what do I do if I'm teaching, if I'm tutoring online? I'm like, I have a marker in my hand and I'm not going to write on my computer. So again, I think it's a mental adjustment, but again, not comparing, because the experiences are different. The nature, the environments are different. With that being said, I think that for me, what is important to recognize is that the quality of teaching, I challenge myself to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's maybe something that could be difficult to measure, right, for people who are not, making the transition. But listen,
Right.
it's at this point that I want to actually kind of do something a little bit maybe controversial, right? And I want to split.
When don't you do things controversial, Christian? Aren't we known in the industry for being controversial? What does that mean? We talk about subjects that are there, that we know that they're there, but we feel comfortable standing on our authenticity and truth. I'm sorry. What are we doing, brother?
Authenticity and truth. That is exactly it. Well, what I want to do is I want to split a little bit the difference between online teaching face to face, right? So I'm talking about this experience, and then I want to compare that to online teaching that would be like a course, right? Like buying a pronunciation course or buying a grammar course. And I want to say, and I don't know if there's too much controversy about this, but language is social, right? Everything about language is social. It's built. Language is built on the foundation of communication between humans, and you know, um, something that I've been wondering about is how much value do you really get from a course where there's not interaction? That's what I'm wondering about.
Okay. Well, here are my thoughts. Public service announcement. The following comments that I'm going to make is based on my truth, my experience. You can agree, you can disagree. It's called the exchange of ideas. It's called critical thinking. Sometimes the value of live YouTubes or other interactions is that it gives you a different perspective. With that being said, listen, at the end of the day, let me first say that a content provider, he or she, anyone out there, regardless of where they live, years of teaching, he or she has the right to do a course, online teaching, whatever they're deciding to do. With respect to courses, I think what becomes, at least for me, for example, about a couple months ago, I did a tutoring as it related to millionaire mindset. It was like my first dib in terms of like, tutoring. I had like 9 people in the class or whatever. And so I do think what it becomes or at least my responsibility is when we're talking about quality of instruction and quality of teaching is within the course is to make sure within my lesson planning and in terms of interaction is that a teacher properly plans for that exchange, that interaction. And that is possible online. Obviously, we can't physically be in the same
Mm.
venue, but it is possible online to do. And I think that's what's very important. And that was important to me just in terms of my style and instruction. So I would, at my approach, my method is that if somebody wants to do a course, right? If they want to do a course on pronunciation, if they want to do a course on grammar, whatever it is, for me, my approach is not to have it one way dictatorial. I mean, there's still an aspect where it's like, at least my method of teaching is that as a teacher, my talking time should decrease and the student's time should increase. So I would recommend that people include like communicative activities. One could, not saying that teachers don't, I'm just sharing my experience. When I did Millionaire Mindset, it was kind of like each of the students, I broke them out into groups. I went in the private group sections. I got their information. Each student was required to become the teacher, share their information. So again, I think any course that someone is going to do a learner out there, he or she obviously has the opportunity to pay for whoever they want to and do the courses. But I think if you're going to invest in a course, there might want to be some interaction if that's your style. I'm not the teacher that's going to be like lecturing for like 1 hour. Not me, not my way.
Well, because there's some really interesting kind of statistics about online courses, right? And the one that was the most interesting kind of to me, and the one that was also the most scary.
Hi.
Go upstairs. Okay, I'll be finished. I'll be finished. The one that was the most kind of scary for me was that in at the end of 2000 and 2019, I think. So,
Okay.
no, maybe actually, I think it was the end of 2018, 2 years ago. I
Okay.
I made an online course, and it had like hundreds of videos, and it had grammar activities, and it was like a typical kind of online course. And because of the company I was working with, because they were very generous, I they allowed me to give the course away for free, right? So
Oh,
I
nice.
gave it away. 10,000 people signed up to the course, okay? And lesson one, okay, so it was like what was it called? About oh my god, what's the word I'm looking for? Unit. Yes, that's
English?
the word. Unit. So it's unit one, unit one, lesson one. 10,000 people logged in, and they did that unit one, right?
Okay. Okay.
By the end of the course, there was about 5% of people left, right, that were doing it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and that made me feel terrible, because I was like, okay, so obviously my course is boring. I didn't motivate people to continue, etc., etc. And then I read that actually 5% is really good. That
That is
for
good. Yeah.
most courses are never finished by students. A lot of people will pay the money for the course and never even log in. They won't even log in and do unit one. They just want to pay the money and go, I'm doing something now. It's like a
Right.
gym. It's like signing up for a gym and you never go to the gym, right? It's like that feeling
Right.
like
Right.
the money will get me something, right? The money will
Right.
do the work for me. Um,
Right.
and and so What I want to talk about is what is the responsibility that the student has to actually finish the damn course.
Oh, okay. So bring the fire, right? Okay, bring the fire. Well, what I would say is this. First of all, when we're talking about courses, I think what's important of, and I'm talking about from the perspective of anybody out there learning English. Number one, you have to figure out what course you want. Two quick words come to mind. One is choice, the other is preference. First of all, know why you're learning English. What's your reason? What's your purpose? If you don't know the why, then you're not going to get to the how. All right? And so, therefore, getting to the how leaves you with choice and preference. There are some people that prefer, for example, they prefer structured courses like you're saying, unit one, unit two, whatever it is, grammar, pronunciation, whatever course it is. That is one choice. And there are other people that prefer, it's like, you know what, they want a course, whether it's live in a group setting or individual setting. You have to know that. You have to know what your preference and choice is. There were some people, for example, that, you know what, they were like, hey, Teacher Will, you know what, Millionaire Mindset is really good, but I can't make it because of time. I prefer, because I have this much of time, they prefer like a course that's already uploaded on a website that you can buy for now. Right. Now, with that being said, real talk, bring the fire. Learners, family, ATW family, Kangaroo English family, you can do whatever you want. Here's the dealio. If you were spending your hard earned cash, your money, your resources, your ducat, and you say that you want to learn English, whether or not that you decide to do a online course like Teacher Christian had, or or do a Millionaire Mindset, which is an online course but in a group setting, at the end of the day, learning starts, ends. I'm sorry, begins, starts, commence, and ends with you. What is the value? What is the purpose if you gonna spend 50 real, 50 euro, 100 euro, $100, $5,000, whether it's online and you don't do anything about it? So what am I trying to say? You have the choice, you have the preference, but learning is a skill. Learning requires doing something. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't waste your money if you're going to purchase it and you don't do anything. You're kind of gypping yourself. You'll have some teachers that might care or might not care that'll laugh at the bank, be like, hey, you know what? I don't care if the student didn't complete the course. I have my money. That's not right. That's not wrong. You might have some teachers that'll be like, hey, you know what? Well, I've noticed that you didn't complete lesson one or lesson 15, whatever it is. But learners, where is your responsibility? Let me relate it this way. Christian Kangaroo Legend Brother did a video on his 200 video where he did a wonderful video talking about, he celebrated his 200 video and he used the analogy and metaphor. It's like, you know what? He wanted to ride a bike. So, you know what? Great. I'm now Christian's son. That's my dad. He's my father from another brother, mother, whatever. So now I'm teacher Christian. I'm Christian. Christian is my dad. He wants me to ride the bike. He brings me the bike. He shows me the instructions and things of that nature. Well, wait a minute. At some point, if I want to learn how to ride that bike, I got to get on the bike, right? I'm going to fall down, but I'm going to get myself back up. The same applies. Learning is your responsibility. It is your accountability. Please don't get mad at the teacher, whether the teacher is offering an online course or they're doing it, whatever it is. And then you're mad at the teacher because you've never picked up any of the material. You've never studied it. I'm sorry. That doesn't work for me.
No, and
For me.
no, and actually there was a really super interesting paper that was published this year, where the group of scientists, they wanted to know how can we help people to actually finish these courses, right? So they used a number of different kind of psychological tricks to try and get these people to finish the damn courses, right? So they were, I think, five different methods that were proven to, five methods that were proven to be very powerful at affecting people's psychology, right? So they tried them in these courses, and none of them had any effect. right? None of them.
Really?
Yeah, and it shows that you cannot motivate people from the outside, right? The people have to the people have to wake up and say, "I want this," right?
Christian, brother, legend, sorry, let me interrupt you very quickly. For those people that are familiar with the ATW family, whether you're on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, whatever social media, let me tell you something, learners. Let me tell you something that I know, as my mother has said, it's TNP. That is slang for tried and proven. Oftentimes, if people are part of the ATW family, I usually say motivation, inspiration through English. And that motivation and that inspiration, it starts with you. Can you be motivated by Teacher Christian? You better. Can you be motivated by any other teacher? Yes. Or your family, your loved one, your partner, your husband, wife, whatever. Can you be inspired by music? Yes. I was inspired by this wonderful song. I was editing a video on YouTube and I was like, what is this song? I got inspired. Yes. Can you be motivated and inspired by external factors, extrinsic factors? Yes. But wait a minute. For example, that motivate, but then what do I say, brother? I say that motivation, inspiration, it starts and ends with you. If the learner does not have that desire to sit back and make an investment in themselves, regardless if they're learning or hopefully learning from a session like this, or if they decide to pay money for courses, whatever that courses is, if that motivation, that desire, that drive, that passion, that motivation, if you do not relate to that, why are you wasting your time? The beautiful thing about life that I've recognized is everything begins and ends with me. And sometimes what I've done in my life is I've made excuses and had a pity party because I thought it was somebody else's problem. Oh, Teacher Christian didn't help me. He didn't explain it the right way. Oh, or this course that I'm sorry. Can I take a look in the mirror and ask myself the question? Did I do everything possible to be the better version of myself with respect to English when I had 30 minutes or 45 minutes instead of let's say instead of like laying on the couch watching Netflix? Did I actually listen to a live YouTube or one of the lessons from Kangaroo English or possibly by Teacher Will? Did I use these free resources as an opportunity for education, or did I just want to be entertained? So, again, I'm talking about myself. If it applies, it applies. William, what are you doing? And that's the beautiful thing of a language. That's the difference between studying and learning. Studying is the memorization of facts. Learning is the acquisition of skill.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, I mean, there's so much in there, but I think um, the interesting thing to me is this idea that somehow um, you can find something or someone who can do the hard work for you, right? It's like if you could only find the right
No.
teacher, or you could only, pay for that right course, then that would, give you fluency, you know?
Okay. 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 I'm going to say a couple more things, Kristen, and we'll take questions. So let me say this. If indeed someone decides to, I want to address this topic because I think it's very important. If indeed somebody decides to, let's say they're looking for a coach, private tutor online, they decide to pay resources, that is your business. But I want to specifically address that. What I highly recommend that people do is this, because it's like this. Hey, listen, if I want to lose weight, sometimes I go to the gym, sometimes people hire a private trainer. Or if I want to get my hair did, then hair did. That's slang English. If I want to get my hair done, instead of cutting my hair, I go to a barber, right? So sometimes people need assistance and coaching. So if indeed that a person is going to find a tutor or do a course online, face to face, or whatever it is, Learners, I think what you have the responsibility to do, to your point, brother, when you ask the question, finding the right teacher, listen, that's part of the equation. Number one, before finding the right teacher, do you have the right mentality? Do you have the right mindset? Do you, I'm sorry, I might be, maybe I'm getting too up in your face. I'm talking about myself. Do I know the why? Do I know the reason? Am I selling out to myself? Am I going to devote the time, the resources in that? Am I showing up correct to William? Am I showing up with the right mindset? Am I willing to invest the time, the resources? And if I say yes to that, that's fine. Now, if I need coaching and tutoring, and one of the things that I recommend is this: you have a virtual plethora, myriad of teachers out there. If you do need coaching, I'm sorry. This is just my thought. Whether it's Christian, you want as a private tutor, I don't know if y'all want me because I'm crazy. I tell my students, I'm like, listen, if you don't have the right mindset, I don't want you. But with that being said, what I'm suggesting to a learner is that if you're looking for a coach or a private tutor, you have every right to interview the people. You have every right to find out if it's a match. Teaching, for me, it's a dual perspective. If I'm interested in Christian because I see his content or things of that nature, and Christian's offering a course, whether it's online, whether it's structured already, or even if it's like he's doing private tutoring or group tutoring, you better believe I'm gonna ask this man, could you explain your teaching style? Like, how are you? Because why? So much of learning is personality beside qualifications. And I think oftentimes what happens is that students don't do that. They pay for a course, they pay for a tutor or whatever online or face to face, and they don't even do the due diligence.
No, this is so interesting. I mean, this is obviously one of the massive advantages of the world of online face-to-face teachers is that you can
Yes.
find someone who matches, the way you think and the things you want to learn and right? I mean,
Exactly. Because I listen, teacher, brother, legend. By the way, public service announcement. Do you know why we call teacher Christian the legend? Do you
because
know why
I
we
know
call him the
why, because
legend?
this man was looking in the mirror when he said it.
Well, thank you for the compliment as long as you sit back and appreciate and accept compliments too. Because anytime I call you a legend, you're like, whatever. But, Christian, to your point, listen, when some people come to me in various different ways and say, hey, teacher Will, this is just my recommendation, learners. Listen, when people have come to me and said, hey, I'm interested in tutoring and things of that nature, I've said, okay, great, let's schedule a 15-minute call. They're like, what? Let's schedule a 15-minute call. Are you available on Instagram? Are you available on Zoom, Skype? What call? Why? Wait a minute. You're investing money. I'm sorry, if I'm doing private tutoring, I don't teach for free. I do a lot of stuff for free, and there will be a part of Ask Teacher Will that will usually be for free. But I'm sorry, tutoring, people have a right to get paid, not paid. That's a personal choice. If I'm devoting my energy, my effort, I'm going to show up 100%. So I said to somebody, this is a real life story, one of my students. She was like, one of the reasons why I chose you, Teacher Will, was because I never experienced that I had to interview with a teacher. And I was like, well, think about it. I'll call her Wilhelmina. Wilhelmina. I was like, think about it, Wilhelmina. I was like, so you're going to invest money and you don't even want to know if we have a personality, if we have the same personality. You want to know my methodology of teaching. Learners, whoever you decide to invest your money with, you owe it to yourself to interview that teacher. Find out if you like their methodology of teaching. Find out what their lesson plans are. That is so important.
Yeah.
Because I normally tell people, like, when people say, like, when they ask me, like, okay, what's your price? Oh, what's your price, teacher? Do you know what my response is, Legend? I'm like, thank you very much. I'm not interested. I understand that price is one variable, but what I try to do is I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to educate at least the ATW family. You owe it to yourself to do that. Because you know what? I'm not the right teacher for everybody. People might not like my method of teaching. They might not like my pronunciation. They might not like the lessons. And I do think with online that people, you have a right to do that. Better yet, that was nice. Let me bring the fire in a little bit more respective way. Learners, why are you going to spend your money and pay for some course that you don't even want to sit back and be like, okay, I'm going to pay 50 real, 100 real? And then you wonder why you're not meeting your church's need. You deserve better. Wake up. But what happens is some of you people like, oh my God, I can't say anything to teacher Christian or this teacher or that teacher. Why? Because I idolize them, because I want to sleep with them, because I fantasize them, or because I grow up in a culture where I'm not taught to question a teacher. No, this is a new day. This is an opportunity. You, the learners, the students, you have the power. It is your money. So make an investment in yourself. You're worth it.
Man, and this is something that you said to me months ago, and I wrote it on my board and I took a picture of it. And that is, stop trying to impress people, right, who don't care
Oh
about your
yeah,
learning.
stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You as legend said, some of y'all, this is what Christian wrote. Stop looking for the validation of others. Validate yourself. And when you validate yourself and you know your worth and you know your value, let your light shine. Very quickly, I did a 2-hour Instagram. Shout out to Speak David like that, who invited me to do it because we need to clear up some things with my latest video on YouTube. I hope it was informational. And in that particular live Instagram, I said this: learners, you want to know why I respect this man and I call this man the legend? Here's why. The reason why I call him and I respect him and I call him a brother is because this. What he does is that he gives you his perspective, his truth, his experience, shares the knowledge so that ultimately you can make a decision that what works best for you. He's not saying that what he's saying is the truth. Learners, you have an opportunity. I'm sick of it. Let me break it down this way. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, 2020 has been a very interesting, challenging year because of Corona, because of personal and professional reasons. Learners, you owe it to yourself, not to me, not to Christian. You owe it to yourself to recognize and realize that if you're going to be either make an investment in yourself in terms of paying for courses, or if you decide to follow teachers online on whatever social media it is, you owe it to yourself to know your value and know your worth. Stop looking for the validation, approval of others when they might not even give a DAM fill in the blank about you. When you decide, wherever you are, whatever you look like, whatever you sound like, whatever your accent is, pronunciation is, when you recognize and celebrate the uniqueness and authenticity of you, you will not stand for half of the baloney or BS that people try to propagate. When you recognize and you realize and you stand in your value and your worth, you'll begin to look at the intent and then question, well, wait a minute. Why am I going to pay $100 for learning English in 30 days, being fluent in 30 days, and recognize that you weren't fluent in your native language in 30 days? You owe it to yourself, learners. And what you have an opportunity, notice, I want people, let me say this very slowly because I don't want to be misconstrued. I don't want to be considered political. I don't want to be considered all these other things. But that's all right because your opinion of me is just that, your opinion. I say all that to say is this: learners, when you realize that you are a consumer and that you have value and worth. And I understand that English might not be your native language. And I understand and have sympathy and empathy that you might not be able to express your thoughts and expressions. But when you decide that you are the most important person and that you're going to value yourself, validate yourself, love yourself, instead of looking for the approval, validation of love, as Christian said one day, of people on YouTube or other social medias that you might not even meet in your life, is when the change becomes. You owe that to yourself. And please support those individuals that might be trying to uplift you and empower you. not bring you down for who you are, how you sound, and what you look like.
I think, Will, that I agree with everything you've said, but I think what's happened is over the past, I'm going to go and say as far back as 100 years, right? Um, the and this is again, it doesn't give me any pleasure to say this. It doesn't make me happy to say this, but I think that there has been zero innovation in the language learning industry in 100 years. Zero.
I'm not. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. That is
Like
your opinion.
if you look at some of the courses that people are selling, some of the ideology that people are selling, this is stuff from that people were writing about in the 1600s. This is ancient history, and and I think what's happened is people are so brainwashed to believe that the only way that they can successfully learn a language is if they go to the place that has the little Cambridge shield, right? Or if they go to the if they buy the course with the little British Council logo, or if they have the teacher who has the right look and the right sound, right? That is their free entry into fluency. Do you have anything to say about this, Will?
Well, well, I think that yes, I do. I think that you bring up some very interesting points. So let me say this very briefly. Number one, I would encourage everybody. Recently, I dropped a video on my YouTube channel. Please go out and watch that. I think it's something that educational, something for people to think about.
It's an amazing
Christian, to your
video.
point, thank you, brother. To your point, learners, let me say this calmly, bringing the fire calmly, because I want people to hear this. Learners, you have the right to purchase any course that you want to or not want to. You have the choice to follow anybody that you do or do not want to do. But one of the things that I've thought about in my own self is this. I've asked myself the question, learners, why don't you demand more? Why don't you expect excellence?
Yes.
Why is it, but again, I'm only talking about myself now. You know, I think either you said it or Teacher Ali or somebody said, listen, somebody can sell whatever the heck they want to sell. That's the thing. I mean, are pronunciation courses of value? If people think that they're of value, sure. I'm not saying they aren't, they are not. I don't do a pronunciation course. My thing is that again, it's supply and demand. Learners, I need to say something respectfully. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to I'm going to try to say it in a way that hopefully you'll understand. Maybe it's a little tough love. Learners, you are the market. You have a right to demand more. But some of you, because you walk around not loving yourself, not thinking that you're worthy, because English is not your first language, that you might be brainwashed, or that you might be programmed thinking that English has only one particular narrative, that you don't think that you have choices. You, the learner, you, the student, are the ones that change the market. If you decide, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that you want more than a pronunciation course, then you know what? How do you do that? Open your mouth, say something, withhold your money. And Christian, I want to be intellectually honest. I'm not mad at anybody. Like, you know what? Like, there's certain things that sell. That's not right. That's not wrong. People make their own particular decision if they're able to live with their values and morals. But learners, you have a right to demand more. And I can't tell you that you should do something. What I'm going to say is, it's like, you know what? I demand quality. I demand to be treated equally. I deserve that. Why? Because I'm a human being. No one's going to put me down for who I am, how I sound. And if I'm not getting where do you get the service that you deserve instead of settling for second best? Acting like some of you don't think that you're worthy. Why? And so when you have people out there, definitely Christian, sometimes myself, listen, It's about choice, but you deserve that. You deserve that. But some of you are listening to particular people that are telling you you're less than. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me say it like this, and then I'm going to shut up. If somebody keeps telling you fluency, 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 and you keep paying a course and you're doing the work, did you ever think that that just might be a selling technique to keep you throwing back money? Learners, you need to wake up and demand more. And when you start demanding more, then you'll get it. Why? Last point. Let's take English. Let me think it like this. English is not white. English doesn't have a color. It's not white. It's not black. English is a language and a tool of communication. Now, with that being said, I want everybody on the call to think of English as a system, as a business. And when you recognize that it is based on supply and demand, sellers and buyers, and there are more buyers, I'm sorry, there are more buyers than sellers. And when you recognize that, you know what, when you stand in your worth, when you love yourself, when you're honest with yourself, when you do the work and you recognize all of those things, then you have an opportunity to sit back and you know what? It doesn't take a lot of people to change an industry if you want it to change. It's a whole small amount of people making a whole lot of noise.
Yes.
And so, therefore, even if somebody doesn't like you, they might change their tune because they don't want to lose their money. So, what are you going to? My final comment, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, ATW family, Kangaroo English family, we're ending 2020. It's been a challenging, interesting year. Congratulations to all those teachers that have decided to make the transition. Congratulations to all of those students through the pain, through the suffering, through the tribulations, all of that stuff. And so, you know what? Celebrate the success. Be proud of who you are. And as we end 2020 and hopefully go on into a new year, learners, you have the opportunity to ask yourself the question, as it relates to your English goals, who will you follow? Why will you follow? And what do you deserve? And if indeed you believe that you are not getting the service that you deserve, you have two choices. You can keep your mouth shut, keep living in oppression, keep living in ignorance, possibly be played, possibly be bamboozled, possibly be conditioned, thinking that English is just one way, buying into the stereotypes or the perceptions, or the choice. Or what you can do is you can open your mouth and say something. You can be the change. Because at the end of the day, if it's a business, not a color, not an accent, not a region, it's a business. When you, the customer, decides that the product is not working for you and you make a complaint, the buyer is going to change it. But until you don't open your mouth, if you continue to keep your mouth closed and say nothing, you know what? You deserve it because power concedes nothing.
It's what's interesting is they did some research about the Hong Kong, I don't want to call them riots, about the the revolutionary actions in Hong Kong, right? Recently, this year there's been a lot of social action about Chinese interference or control over Hong Kong, and they discovered that, similar to a lot of other revolutions that have had really big effects, so revolutions that have overthrown governments, revolutions that have can you go upstairs, please? Revolutions that have caused dramatic change in a country. It only takes 3% of people, 3%, right? Like, so for people who maybe feel like they can't make a difference because well, look, there's only 3% of us. No, it's powerful enough to end governments, right? Powerful. And there's something that I wanted to mention from what you were saying before, right? About this idea that maybe that a really important aspect of success is, I don't know, like loving yourself, right? And respecting yourself and appreciating yourself. Um, they I spoke to an academic who works with northern accents, British northern accents, and in the UK, you know, British northern accents have this a lot of negative associations. You know, the people are more stupid and they're you know, they're maybe you can't trust them, and you know, so there's a lot of negative associations. But what they discover is if you go and ask these people, you say, how do you feel about your accent? They say, I feel great about my accent. I'm proud to have a northern, you know, a northern British accent, right? But then when you do some testing of their subconscious, it turns out that they hate themselves. They secretly they hate their accent. They've internalized this self-hate,
Yes.
right?
Yes, 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 brother. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I need to say this. That's why, to me, words, for me personally, words are powerful. What hurts me as a human being is to, and people have a right to do whatever they want, but I try to be mindful in terms of the words that I use. And I know in this industry, you've been at this longer than I am, people are internalizing their self-hatred. And that's why words to me, like accent or this accent or fix that, they're powerful. Listen, I come from a culture and come from a perspective where it's like, you know what? And I have sympathy and empathy. Why? Because I learned critical thinking skills. I can only imagine where it's kind of like, you know what? I'm trying to learn English as not my native language, and I don't come from that. And what you're saying is, I'm like, learners, one of the reasons, last point, and then I'll be quiet. One of the reasons why the methodology, if you follow as teacher will or whatever, yes, is grammar and vocabulary important? Yes, or phrasal verbs? Yes, it is. But in my own life, as someone who speaks another language than English, in my own life, what I've recognized and realized that, you know what? Mindset is key. And how I think about myself is key. If I walk around, there are times in my life, real talk, people, times in my life when I first started on social media or whatever, I compared myself to others. I called myself dumb. I called myself stupid. That has an impact. So please be mindful of who you follow and the content that you assume and consume. I'm sorry, the content that you consume. It's powerful. And you know what? If you have, and because I want to talk about a market for a moment, the market out there perpetuates one particular standard, one particular way, one particular vision. I'm not, what I'm saying to you is the following, is that, you know what? That is one way. Don't get mad if we're dealing with English as a business that has no color, whatever like that. Do not get mad at people if they're giving students, learners, customers the other opportunities, because it's a market, right? It's a market. We like competition, right? But some content providers out there only like the message one way. Power consumes nothing. My final comment, because I'm running low on battery, brother, I'm sorry, is that at the end of the day, learners, when learning, loving yourself is a lifelong process, learning English is a lifelong process, but be kind and love yourself and be mindful of the people and the content that you consume. If you're feeling that you're being treated in an unfair way, you have a right to change that, because it's like what Christian says, it only takes a small amount of people, but be open to that change.
Open to the
Be
change.
open to the change if you want it, instead of be open to the change you want it. If you don't want it, fine. Then one last thing, brother, but don't come after Christian.
Wow.
Don't come after teachers that provide a different way or a different way of thinking. If you're a content provider out there, then you know what? Be comfortable who you are. You can play any game, do anything else, right? But it's a competition of ideas, right? If we're still stuck in the 21st century, or we're in the 21st century, and we keep telling people that English is a global international language, but yet speak like a native, have a native accent, really? Okay. Not on my dime. I'm done, brother. I'm done, because I got like I'm on my phone, not my computer. So
Are you running out of battery? Did you say?
I got like 10 minutes. I got like 5 minutes left because I did it on my phone and not my
Okay, no problems.
So if you want to take questions or
No
whatever, fine.
problems.
I
Well,
apologize.
I think that this is really interesting, right? You'll have advertising for a course, that's like, learn English so that you can have opportunities all around the world, and learn English so that you can be part of the global community. But you have to speak like these people. That's
I would encourage everybody. Christian, very quickly, public service announcement. If anybody decides to watch my video, the last video I dropped, I would encourage people to watch that video from beginning to its end. And I just ask questions. And so I think what's important is, if you find it to be important, is visuals say a lot. And when I create content, and one of the reasons why is when I create content is I create content so people have the opportunity to think, hey, did I think about this before? Maybe I haven't thought about this before. Yes, I've thought about this before and I can use it. Or yes, I haven't thought about this before and it doesn't apply. But the value of content, whether it's myself or Christian or any other content provider, at least for me, is to encourage people to think and give them options. But please, you can make any comments you want, but just be prepared for a response, because it's my truth, my experience. But learners, make it's like what I said at the end of the video. Whatever you decide to do, whatever course you decide to do, whatever teacher you decide to follow, know your worth, know your value, and make English your own.
awesome. So listen, just to finish up, hopefully you've got enough battery to finish up. I just want to finish it up by bringing it right back to the beginning, to the concept of language being a social, to being a social construct, right? Communication. Language is designed for people to communicate, and I suppose, you know, I want to finish up by saying that, in my opinion, um, any good online teaching, so that's whether you're choosing a face-to-face teacher or if you're paying money for a course, it has to involve a social element, right? and and I think a lot of students, it's easy to pay for a course because you can hide inside a course, right? You can pay your money and hide, and you don't have to really, you don't have to be out there, making mistakes and embarrassing yourself, and putting yourself at risk, right? You can hide behind your course. So I just want to finish by saying that, online teaching has enormous value, as long as we always remember what language is all about, which is communication. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So, sir, you are. It's been an honor once again to bring the fire with you. Um, you have proven yourself once again to be a man of unlimited energy and truth.
As are you.
and,
As
uh,
are you.
and really it's an honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see any of Teacher Will's videos, and I recommend you watch his most recent video, you'll find a link to his YouTube channel down in the description box. Subscribe to his channel. His content is amazing. Teacher Will, in 2 weeks, actually, no, in 2 weeks is Christmas Day.
Wait. Hold on, brother. Listen. So, learners, listen. We don't necessarily know. Some of us celebrate holidays and it's a holiday season and things of that nature. So, Kristen and I, if we're not able to do, very quickly, if we're not able to do, this might be our last live of 2020. If we'll figure out if it is or not, but if not, we'll be back in 2021. But learners, at the end of the day, listen, this guy I respect. He's a legend. He's my ride or die, and he's got the receipts. So if you do not follow listen, at the end of the day, what I want you to do is this. Learners, if you say that you respect me or like me or value me or admire me, whatever like that, I want you, I believe that sharing is caring. So I want you to go out and let people know about Kangaroo English, tell them to subscribe and things of that nature. Because it's a question of supporting people that support you. So if we don't see you in 2020, we'll be back in 2021. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, if I missed anything for anybody else. And that's a wrap.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And Teacher Will, keep on being a legend, and I'll speak to you soon.